What's going on, guys? Yeah, obviously there's a bit of a discrepancy with that introduction, but either way, I'm just trying some stuff out. So this video starts off where I'm facing off in the Ulysses Forest with Knight Artorias, and I really think this is one of the most cinematic fights in the game, because you spend the whole game, the vanilla game, hearing about Knight Artorias. And just how amazing this guy is, and how he slayed the dark wraiths, and or he made the covenant with the four kings, and Sif guards his grave. You spend like the whole time hearing about this great guy Artorias, and how awesome he was, Knight of Gwyn, whatever. But then you go back in time in this DLC, and you realize that Artorias kind of wasn't as good as they said, and he was corrupted by the dark, and the person that actually did that, who actually freed Ulysses from the dark, was the chosen undead, and you end up finding a corrupted and broken Artorias who is corrupted by the abyss, and then you have to put him down. He has no idea who he is anymore. He's not the same person. And it's just really awesome. So, also in my opinion, this is one of the closest things in the vanilla game, or maybe not vanilla game. This is one of the closest things in this game to come to an actual PvP encounter without being one. Essentially, he's the closest boss to being a PvP encounter. Because he rolls, he jumps, he dodges, he does things that are sort of the equivalent of R2s and R1s, and he changes up based upon your positioning around him. It's just all very interesting. So he's also one of the bosses that I have the least experience fighting. So I typically have a little bit of trouble with him, especially here. I think I'm gonna die quite a few times to him before I actually put him down, unfortunately. But so he does that little slime thrower or whatever. He does the roll. Most of the time, what you want to do when he starts powering up like that is you want to run up and you want to see if you can break his poise. Because if you can stop him from doing that, because notice how the first sludge attack that he threw at me didn't do a whole lot of damage, but that second one did, and also he kills me when he's got like no health. And I was very, very upset about that. I got greedy, and I thought I was going to be able to out DPS his attack, and unfortunately I failed. So after he's also got one kind of the worst boss positions, because in order to get back to him, to have another shot at him, you have to run all the way through the forest again. Now there's a shortcut that you can unlock, but it's just not that good. Unfortunately, as you can see in this video is a little old. I'm doing the post commentary a little bit later on. I'm not sure how many people still play the remaster, the first Dark Souls. It's probably not a lot. Even when I played Dark Souls Remastered, it had only been out a couple of months, and the game felt a lot more dead than what I had been hoping for, essentially. And that was really disheartening, because I had a lot of really great interactions on Dark Souls 1. Demon Souls, Dark Souls 1, Dark Souls 2, Dark Souls 3, Bloodborne. I've had great interactions on all of them. Like you meet people, and sometimes it's a guy who's dressed like some kind of crazy knight, and then sometimes it's a guy in a loincloth with a great club that's trying to smash your face in, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's all, you never know who you're going to run into. But unfortunately, Dark Souls Remastered, the world felt empty. I got into Dark Souls a little bit late. I began playing it a couple of months before Dark Souls 2 came out. So by the time Dark Souls 1 you know, or I had began playing Dark Souls 1, you know, the game was a few years old by that point. But even just in the Undead Burg, you know, you pop a humanity, you turn human, and, you know, there were summon signs, there was messages, you know, but sometimes in the remastered, you know, there's some areas, like the Undead Burg still has some things going on, but you know, places like Ulasil, you know, the DLC area, which you would think would be a little more populated because now everybody has it, you know, are completely dead. You know, you could maybe find a couple of bloodstains, you could maybe find a couple of messages, but you really couldn't, you know, and I got slammed to death there. But, you know, there was really not a lot of interactions in Ulasil. You know, there's the township area just after you defeat Artorias, and even in this video, I actually managed to get a PvP or an invasion. So I believe I went to go talk to the undead merchant and decided to go and go get some resins because I think Artorias is weak to fire, but I don't really recall. So going through, you can see I've got the Mage's Apprentice. I've got, you know, my Firelink Shrine is essentially full of people. This is during a playthrough. The PlayStation 3 version of Dark Souls 1, I have a Platinum in, you know, because I just enjoyed that game so thoroughly. And I also went for a Platinum run in Dark Souls 1. Knight's Honor and the Mages, the spells, and the miracles, and all the rare weapons. Those are the only trophies that ever gave me any issues. But, you know, with enough playthroughs and enough patience, it's definitely doable. A lot of the trophies you can earn, you know, just accidentally. Oh, there's also the Pyromancy one. The ones where you have to collect spells, and the ones where you have to collect all the rare weapons. The other ones about, like, reinforcing to, you know, plus 10 or plus 15 of a particular item. You know, finding the slabs can be a bit of an issue, but the game at random points will just give you an item that's already infused with that particular thing, like occult, divine. You know, they're all, you'll find a magic and then an enchanted, you know, whatever. So that's relatively easy. And then, you know, you find enough Black Knights later on in the game that just drop, you know, whatever strange color of Titanite you need. You know, it's definitely easy. Green Titanite shards, not so easy. But there's slugs down in Blight Town. Definitely drop, you know, more than you would need. It just takes a couple of runs, a little bit of farming. But yeah, I typically go for twinkling weapons in this game, just because finding slabs, you know, like I can have a plus 5 weapon with twinkling titanite relatively early on in the game, like the Silver Knight straight sword. I had to do quite a bit of farming actually to get this, but there's quite a bit of twinkling titanite kicking around, and if you're paying attention for it. So I can have a plus 5 twinkling titanite weapon that, you know, has, you know, roughly the equivalent of a plus 15 without having to find embers, without having to find you know, titanite shards and large titanite shards and titanite chunks, and then ultimately a slab. But, you know, there is the stray demon in the asylum that gives you a guaranteed slab. So it's really just, you know, whatever you happen to, you know, fancy. You know, me, I like the R2s of this weapon, so that's what I use. So I go ahead and buff with the fire, and I go ahead and head in. So Knight Artorias, he's really giving me an issue, so I'm going to definitely do my best. So I'm using the two-handed attacks because I know I can stagger him if I'm careful. I can't remember if I died again on this part. I think I'm going to wait for him to charge me. Yeah. he's definitely giving me some issues here. I'm gonna go ahead and heal right in his face. Yeah. Go ahead and use my R2s. I missed the sludge attack. I think now he's gonna go in for, you know, the I'm gonna wait for him to do that. And then I'm gonna just go ahead and spam my circle button and oh, this, now you get a two-hand and you can stagger him directly out of that. And now he's lost that power-up. So now, you know, he still can hurt you. He can still do quite a bit of damage. But now all his moves aren't super powered by the Abyss stuff. So, just trying to tank some of those hits with my shield up. Trying to not get myself injured in that way. That roll move, you know, that usually accompanies the second and sometimes even a third, like right there. I go ahead and I get greedy, but I was able to poise through that attack. Go ahead and hit him with an R2. He throws a thrust, rolls away. Now he's going to go ahead and try that again. So I'm going to go ahead and use this as an opportunity to get a little bit of damage on him and knock him out of it again. So rolling backwards is usually not a good idea, and I have a very bad habit in Dark Souls 1 of doing that. You usually want to roll into stuff. You want to stay aggressive because your iframes, you know, on your rolls are so good that you can essentially go straight through the sword. It doesn't matter the direction. Usually, you want to try to roll either side to side or through the attack, not out of it. Because if you go out of it, that gives somebody an opportunity to punish you. So here he goes again, trying to charge up. I'm gonna go ahead and knock him out. And now he's gonna be, and I've essentially trivialized this fight. I probably should have just went ahead and went for the kill right there, but I think I was trying to learn from having been greedy earlier before. And I must say, like, you know, Artorias' scream and the way that, you know, he falls, like, right at the end, you know, it really just, you know, makes you think, like, about this great hero and things of that nature. This great hero in history, but when you meet him, he's actually not so great. There's the gazebo for the weird little arena mode that nobody played. You know, that's back, but I go ahead, I've got the Rite of Kindling, and I'm going to go ahead and rest at this bonfire, turn human, and go ahead and kindle it up, because I know there's quite a lot of stuff to find in this area. There's quite a lot of things to find in this area, and oh wait, I think I'm going to go find that Siren, one of Gwyn's other knights, but I don't believe his grave has shown up just yet. Either that or I glitched it, I don't really remember. But right before you go and fight the final boss of the DLC, there's quite a bit of stuff in this area. You can find a pendant that you can use to repel some of those dark attacks that he uses. Because I'm not wholly familiar with the DLC, I usually will forget where it is, but it's just one of those things. But I kindle this up because I know that I'm going to spend a good bit of time in this area just searching and fighting enemies, and I want to go ahead and you know, that way I've got all the Estus that I need. See, I see the fog wall come up out of the corner of my eye, and I realize I'm being invaded. And that actually makes me very happy, because this is the township area. This is one of the biggest PvP areas. There's messages, there's blood stains. You know, that means that this area is populated. So this person, they're using a grass crest shield. They've got, I can't remember the name of the weapon, but it's one of it's the Gold Tracer. And so this person's using, it's a pretty meta build. He tries to go ahead and set up parry me. I hit him with a couple R2s. And what he's going to do from this point is he's going to be spamming R1s, and he's going to try to bleed me out. But my bleeding resistance is actually pretty high, so he's going to have a hard time doing that. So I'm getting a lot of the latency of the peer-to-peer system. He go ahead and he bleeds me out, but my bleeding resistance being pretty high, I go ahead and I hit him with an R1 and I drop him. Easy enough. Just go ahead and let me know if you want to see any more. Catch you later, guys.